going back to 1989, only 4 teams have overcame a 28-point or more deficit at halftime. Only 2 of those were in the regular season, and only 1 of those was in a conference game, and that was Stanford last week against that Colorado Buffaloes team. And now Stanford has homecoming on deck with UCLA coming to town, and they have to follow up that kind of performance. But UCLA has actually struggled recently. They've lost 2 out of their last 3 games, including back-to-back games on the road. They fell to Utah 7-14, only put up 7 points in that game, and they lost on the road at Oregon State, who has shown they have an impressive defense. But this UCLA defense is still something to talk about despite those losses. They're holding opponents 104 yards per game under their season average. That's 7th nationally. And I've said it before, I like looking at that because it takes strength of schedule into account. They've held their last 4 opponents almost 150 yards below their season average. And they held Washington State to just 216 yards, and that includes just 12 yards rushing. Coach Kelly, he is 9-1 against the spread on the road against defensive teams like Stanford that are allowing nearly 6 yards per play or more in his career. He's winning those games by over 22 points per game. And I really think that that's going to come into play here. I think it's back to reality for Stanford. I mean, you look at them over the last 3 years, they're just 3-12 against the spread at home. They're putting up just 16.3 points per game at home this season. And they're just 5-17 against the spread in conference play over the last 3 years. 1-3 this season, with obviously that Colorado game last week being the only game that they won and covered, but they're losing by 20 points per game in that spread over that margin. So I think turnovers are really going to be a big thing here. Obviously, we're talking about a lot of points in the spread, but UCLA and Stanford have both hovered right around that 0 number in the turnover margin on the season. UCLA is +1. But it's a completely different story between these 2 teams. I mean, UCLA has lost 13 turnovers, including 10 interceptions on the season. That's the most in the conference. And Dante Moore's thrown 7 of them. He's among the league leaders, or the bottom of the list, if you want to talk about that, when you talk about interceptions. And then you have Stanford, who has been negative in the turnover margin. They've lost 5. And they've only forced 3. So not a lot of turnovers in those games there. If we see a UCLA offense that is continuing to throw these interceptions and lose these turnovers, then I think this could be a very close game. Stanford's going to have to step up on defense here, but playing in homecoming, playing off that momentum, I think Stanford does get a couple turnovers here, keeps this game closer than we anticipate. And with this big of a line currently sitting at 16.5, I have to ride with Stanford here, I think, coming in, like I said, homecoming, big game, and they got a little bit of momentum with that kind of comeback win last week. So make sure you guys go check out wagertalk.com as well. We have 7 pass. It's a code to use at checkout. You get a 7-day all-access pass for just $69. That's the number 7 pass, PASS, at checkout. You get that 7-day all access for just $69. And before you guys head over there, make sure you like the video and subscribe. Get all the content that we got coming to you this weekend and more. And check out some of these videos that we got on the screen. Plenty of action going this weekend.